Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the New England Endurance Podcast, where we celebrate the stories that make New England the greatest endurance region in the country. I'm your host, Eric Schenker, along with my co-host, Art Chapotsis. So Art, I gotta admit, I'm a little bit nervous about today's episode. We've tried to stay uncontroversial and today, for the first time, we're actually going to be talking about religion, and that just makes me extremely nervous for our podcast audience.
Well, not quite, Eric. I think the name's going to give it away. But so today on the podcast, we're taking a deep dive into one of my favorite regions of New England, Vermont's Northeast Kingdom. We're talking with Dirt Church Brewing.
Dirt Church Brewing. Okay, I heard kingdom. I heard church. I thought we were going heavy into religion today.
Well, Dirt Church Brewing has quickly become synonymous with trail culture, community, and of course, craft beer. Excited to have you guys on the show today.
Thanks for having us.
Yep, good to be here.
Yeah, joining us today are co-owners Anna Cronin and Bruce Lindsay. They are the visionaries behind this unique brewery, meets trailhead, meets spiritual haven. So whether you're rolling in the mud after a gravel grinder, soaking up a Sunday trail run, Dirt Church Brewing is where New England endurance athletes gather to refuel, reconnect, and raise a glass. I got to share Anna's motto from her bio, which is recreation plus preservation plus celebration. So welcome, guys, to the New England Endurance Podcast.
My engineering background wants me to make that some sort of an equation, like equals good life.
It sure does.
So we're going to chat about beer and bikes today. First of all, where are you guys at?
We're out of our house up here in the Northeast Kingdom. We live close by the brewery, so you can keep an eye on things. But we took the morning off so we could spend some quality time together chatting.
Nice. So I want to start from the very beginning. How did Dirt Church come to be?
It's birthed from COVID, probably, for a lot of free time, a lot of long days riding bikes and kind of pontificating and dreaming. Anna and I had a pivotal point in the early months of COVID, like May of 2020, about 5 years ago, where we were kind of riding bikes, hanging out. We were talking about things we wanted to do in our future, and everything was on the table. We were like looking at vans and cabins in the woods. We were considering sailboats or bookstores or coffee shops, and all these ideas were everything. We had a map with thumbtacks in it where we want to be in New England. And we just every day was like, what do you think about this? And we just threw all these ideas out every day. And one day I had a job. I was working, we were living in Connecticut at the time. And I came home from my job, which I wasn't really in love with anymore. Anna's like, I have an idea. And I'm like, let me hear it. And I'll let Anna tell the rest of the story.
No, so, I was in athletics for a while. I was coaching and competing. And so obviously with the advent of COVID, sports kind of ceased for a good long while. And so having that space to be sort of creative about what was going to be our next step in life. And, we had always loved the kingdom. I had been coming here for years, and we drove around one day and saw this beautiful little white church up right across from the Moose Haven Trail Network, which is the East Haven side of it, of Kingdom Trails. And it was just like Norman Rockwell, right? It was like the mountainside with a view of Burke and the valley. And it just had this like perfect little white steeple sticking out of the valley. And I'm like, oh my God, this is it. Because, we're not religious people in the traditional sense. That steeple sort of represented this wonderful symbol of community, right? That was the sign that this is where you went. And that's where we used to go, before there was internet or cars or electricity or whatever. It was like New England was, you go to church on Sunday to get your gossip and to meet your neighbors and to be a part of that. So we said, what can we do to continue that legacy, right? Preserve that kind of tradition of meeting space. And do it in a way that was really meaningful to something that made our lives much more fulfilling.
The church was for sale?
It was.
Yes.
And you thought brewery when you looked at it, or was that the original concept?
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we spent a lot of time visiting breweries and killing time to support like local small businesses that were hurting from COVID. And so we would take our bikes and our dogs. We would go visit breweries. We'd buy their beer, support them. hang out in the community somewhere, hiking or biking, and then talk about what we did and didn't like about the brewery. And so we had seen some plot properties around most of Connecticut, Mass, even southern New Hampshire that were like, hey, that's a cool building. That'd be a cool brewery, or that'd be a place I'd want to hang out at. And that one I didn't like, and I didn't care for their beers. And so we were sort of making a pro con list that we didn't really realize was going to be our future. And so we had seen a church in Connecticut, not far from where I went to college, and we are like, that'd be an awesome brewery to put in that church, you know. Churches also have commercial behavior, so they have sometimes kitchens, they have large congregations and parking lots. So there's a lot of zoning and behaviors that are already in place for congregating people who are going to drink not necessarily the blood of Christ, but drink fermented beverages after riding bikes or recreating. And so I had been looking at property in the Northeast Kingdom, mostly land, to help build some trails out here. And I had passed the church and was like, that's a cool property. So when we saw this church in Connecticut, I said, you know, there's a really cool church up in the kingdom that's been for sale for a while. And there's a couple properties. It's a church, and then there's an old beat up house that was a Grange Hall. And we just said, screw it, let's go take a look and see what this could do for us. And this is an idea that maybe will stick to the wall amongst, you know, coffee shops and sailboats and vans. This was the one that had the highest potential. I was brewing, I'd worked at a commercial brewery, and we were obviously very connected to the kingdom. We had met up here, and all the pieces kind of just came together into a fine business plan, which I came home from work that day. Anna had presented basically a business plan and a whole operations manual, what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and what that looks like. And so we made our plans. We drove up to the kingdom. We did a ton of due diligence, and we scoped it out. We stalked it. We peered in the windows, and that's it. We just went for it.
We just interviewed an amazing couple who founded Bivo Bottles. I don't know if you know them.
Met them for the first time at the Vermont 50 a couple of years ago.
Yeah, they're another Vermont organization, and it's, you know, it's somewhat. There's a lot of parallels to it. They left Oregon to come to Vermont to start a business. You guys kind of left Connecticut to come to Vermont. So sort of some interesting parallels. You know, my next question, but you sort of answered it, Bruce, was, you know, what lucrative careers did you guys throw away to get into beers and bicycles? So that was sort of my next question, but you sort of I think tapped into that. So
yeah,
just a funny parallel. Moving from Connecticut to the Northeast Kingdom. Tell me a little bit about that. Tell me a little bit about that move and how that, I guess maybe what was different about what you expected when you made that move from what you thought it was going to be like.
I've been coming up here for 20 years. So the kingdom's where I came to relax and, you know, not fight traffic and big box stores. So for me, it was already kind of ingrained in the place that I like to spend time. I'm a horticulturist. I studied horticulture. I'm a arborist, and I was a certified tree warden for a town in southern Fairfield County. It's a political position being a tree warden, so it has a lot of unique arborist decision making for public safety and conservation, but it's also a political appointment. I had to commute every day. I worked for a town municipality, public works department, and it was a really fun job at the onset. And then it just the politics of it, being appointed official, it wasn't. It didn't have a predictable future. It paid okay, and I had some freedoms. I was in office, an army of one department. A warden is my title, so there's not many people who have job that says warden at the end besides like game warden, police.
To be clear, you were the guy that they called when they wanted to cut down a tree in their
Exactly.
neighborhood, right?
Yep. No, and it's in New England. That's the requirement. Every town is supposed to have a licensed tree warden, in which I was. So it was a cool job. I mean, I had opportunities to make decisions, analyze and make diagnoses, and then it's public safety and things like that. The rat race aspect of it was the highway commute. I was in a town that had 2,000 people. A lot of them were like New York City transplants. They had a different version of like, landscape and tree care than my version. I was more about the agricultural aspects, the preservation. And there's a lot of what they were doing was very fear-based. And with the politics and the games and the New York behavior, it kind of wore me down. And so when I came up to Vermont, once I got past like Springfield, Massachusetts, I sort of like started to ungrip the steering wheel, and I could start let go of having all this commuting stress and, more fresh air and less big box stores and more kind of rural, simpler things to do. And getting out on a bicycle or hiking up a big hill or skiing, which we love to do also, was a great part of why we constantly came to the same place over and over again. So we just found that's in this. So Anna and I met in a bike race up here about 7 years ago. I have a
Which
dog
one?
throwing a tennis ball at me. So
Circumburg.
Which one?
Circumburg. It was an original race that started at Burke Mountain, and you rode your bicycle around Burke through Victory and then came back. And that race or ride has been kind of unofficially happening for like 15 years, 20 years, something like that. And so they finally did it officially. And it was always in October. And it was just like the most absolutely miserable possible weather you could ever imagine. Like it's late
40 degrees, mud, raining, slippery leaves. It's a
October.
26 mile, 4,000 footer around Burke Mountain and slop.
And they start straight up the hill, right? So the first thing you do is get a punch in the nose to thin the field. You're like, thanks, guys.
So you guys bonded while you were suffering.
Totally.
Very New England love story.
She's a rare mountain biker that likes to wear spandex a lot. So I was chasing her up a lot of the hills, and it was motivating to keep me climbing because she's a better climber than me. And I struck up a conversation somewhere along the trail, and she wasn't really into that kind of dialogue at the time. But by the end of the race, we had kind of become a smitten friends, and
sounds like a Hallmark movie in the making.
it was
now, I gotta tell you.
It was kind of a hilarious. There's a lot to it, but we'll keep it clean. But at the end of it, we connected, and she won the race, and she beat the whole field in the female sport class, what have you, and took the podium. And she disappeared into the day. I never saw her again for a full year. We kind of talked a little bit via social media stuff, just liking pictures and seeing what we were doing in our personal lives. But we accidentally bumped into each other a year later in the Kingdom at a little pub here up on Darling Hill Road in Lyndonville. And we were riding bikes separately from one another, and we walked into the pub at the same time to have a beer during a rainstorm. And she and I were with sort of significant others at the time, but we didn't know who each other were, but we were sort of checking each other out without letting our significant others realize we were interested in knowing who we were in person again. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah.
And so we actually we didn't communicate that day. We were looking at each other from the side. We were what you said, side eyeing all the time. Like we were side eyeing each other at a bar. And like the next day, we were like, "Were you at the bar at the same time that I was yesterday?" And I was like, "It was you. It was me." And we were like, we put it all together. And I'm like, let's get together sometime and ride bikes and figure this out. And so about a month later, I asked her out on a mountain bike date, and we met up here.
Year anniversary that Circumburg was supposed to happen again. So it all kind of came full circle, and that was the beginning.
And so we met up on the Circumburg date, which they canceled Circumburg last minute. So instead we had our own Circumburg, and we rode about 35 miles with some friends that day. And that was our first date up here in the Kingdom at the Kingdom Trails.
That's a fantastic story.
Thank you.
A nice love story from the Kingdom Trails. So we want to get into how Dirt Church is connected to the endurance community. But before we do that, I'd like to talk beer for a second.
Yeah.
So we all know that this region, well, actually for out-of-state listeners or out-of-region listeners, Vermont is like the beer mecca, and they've got amazing breweries. And having Dirt Church Brewing as part of this ecosystem means by default that you must be making some great beer. So I'm curious, like, who comes up with the formula for your beers, and what kinds do you offer?
Well, I'm the brewer, the head brewer. We've been at this for 5 years, I guess, is our business. And I was brewing for about 8-10 years before that. So we focus on IPAs and lagers and just simple dark beers. We don't try to complicate beer. We try to keep it traditional. So I have recipes that I've loved of making over the years. Everything changes constantly in this industry. It's like making cookies or brownies. A recipe changes. It's a very creative process. So we talk about what we like or don't like about the style we made. Maybe we changed hops. It's constantly in flux.
And it's necessarily about what we like either. It's what we get feedback from, our clientele. So a lot of like trends that we're seeing, not just in Vermont, but in the industry in general, is we're starting to transition more towards lighter ABV beers. There's kind of a decline in the double IPAs and more of a
Oh, really?
desire for the lighter 4%ers, crispy, lagers or pilsners. So we really do try to adapt to what our people want and have that creative process in addition.
So Anna, I want to build on that a little bit. I've always wanted to ask this question, like, what is the beer community like up in Vermont? Do you see yourself competitors to folks like the Alchemist or Hill Farmstead?
No, the beer community is diverse, right? And I use this example a lot, is like, just because you have some flour and sugar in a kitchen doesn't mean you're going to make a good cake, right? So all of our industry breweries make something so different from one another. All of our philosophies are different, all of our methods are different. So no two breweries are really the same, right? And every brewery has its own vibe. Every, person's got their own kind of thing going on, and we are all the better for it, right? So, we're competing against ourselves, really. And I know that resonates with the endurance world, is, you are your own best supporter or worst enemy, and you're just trying to be better than yesterday. We have neighbors that are heavy hitters. I mean, long time standing, well established and very strong brands. I mean, Sip of Sunshine is a household name. Fiddlehead is going huge. They're one of the top 50 craft brewers in the United States. So we do have some really heavy hitters as neighbors. Hill Farmstead is kingdom next door. It's like 35 minutes. Chilling, So if we didn't have quality as one of our top priorities, then we wouldn't have made it 5 years. Simple as that.
I think it really is amazing how many breweries there are in Vermont.
Yeah,
But
there's about 90, to be
yeah,
honest.
but it's an incredible
Wow.
number when you sort of
Yeah.
think about the geography and how much open space there is. So those 90 breweries are kind of packed into a small area. But to your point, Anna, you won't survive if you're not making good beer. And that's, maybe we'll talk a little bit about not just the beer, but about Dirt Church itself. What was your vision on day one, right? When you guys wanted to start, but how has that vision evolved over time?
It's only gotten better. I mean, the things that we loved about what Dirt Church really means was, ironically, not really about the beer at all. It was always just like what we did on Sunday mornings and meeting up with your group of crazy friends, and then, having a relaxing afternoon afterwards. And so having that tailgate beer kind of thing. And so we built Dirt Church here in the kingdom based on that kind of ethos, right? So we wanted it to be very much within the vernacular of what Vermont stands for, which is, a slower, more just a more intentional way of life. And so we built this beautiful post and beam and then put in our brewing manufacturing in the back, and we restored the church, and we kept the green space in the backyard. And these are the things, like, I want you to be able to put your feet in the grass and like show up gross after your mountain bike ride and feel right at home, put a fire pit out back. We kind of just really encouraged that sort of that après lifestyle. Come as you are, come tell us about your day, whether you were fishing or hiking or biking or whatever it is that you're doing. But those are the things that make life obviously feel so much more rewarding. And so that was kind of that atmosphere that we just continued to build upon. And over the last 5 years, Bruce and I will stand in front of the church or in front of the brewery, and we're like, wow, this place is really special. You kind of feel it when you get here.
I'm getting chills.
Yeah, but not only that, I mean, is it true you guys have expanded and there is another Dirt Church out there, or something by a different name? Tell us a little bit about your New England domination expansion plans.
One day at a time, one state at a time. Dirt Church was always meant to be a scalable concept. Bruce and I, even from the beginning, we always joked, we're like, oh man, there could be Dirt Church Moab or Dirt Church Asheville. Like that's something that we always wanted to do. Again, to bring it back is that it was the ethos, right? It's that après thing. And so that's certainly not unique to the kingdom or to New England in general. But we actually had the pleasure of going down to Thunder Mountain for the first time a couple of summers ago. And we were lucky enough to meet John Schaefer, who is the owner of Berkshire East. He built out the downhill mountain biking park. He built out the mountain coasters, the zip lines, the whole thing. And he was very, very generous about including us into the community. And so we actually ended up doing the same process that we did for Dirt Church North. And we went through the whole thing for South. And we always were looking for new places to open up satellite tap rooms or increase our production, look at other places to make beer or bring beer. And so we found this wonderful little location in Velomont, which is right across the street from the mountain. Our front yard looks directly up at the mountain, so that's beautiful. Wow. But we really, really connected well with the community there based on their recreational aspects as well. They were underserved. There wasn't really a local, public house, so to speak. Like there was the bar at the mountain and, a cafe down the street, and that was really kind of it. So there wasn't really a place to go congregate afterwards. And with the Deerfield River running right through it, there's so much more going on than we could have ever imagined. So the fishing community is so spectacular. The whitewater rafting, the kayaking, just the river community in general is something that we were really pleasantly surprised by. So it really is our season.
Sounds like a if you build it, they will come kind of situation out there. Maybe they didn't, like you said, there wasn't a place for all of those different communities to come together, and you've provided that. Sounds really.
It is. And, every place is so different, but the vibe is the same in that exact sense of being like, come as you are and come in your waders and your ski boots or whatever.
Yeah, bring your dog.
Waders. I like it.
Yeah.
So, Bruce, let's transition a little bit here to endurance sports. I'm really curious. You touched on it a little bit, but could each of you tell us about your endurance background? Like, how did you start? What's your current sport of choice?
Lately, it's golf, ironically. Not very intense, but, I walk, so it's cool. It's sort of relaxing. No, we do a lot. We've been doing a lot of, we're coming out of the winter still here in the kingdom. It was literally 40 degrees and raining yesterday, so we still feel like we're in ski clothes sometimes. So we spend a lot of the winter skinning. That's our winter uphill, touring behavior is getting up, keeping that cardio rate going so that when we're ready for biking, we're back at it. Anna and I are cross country type riders. We like more distance, more, more carrying our mileage, and then mixing it up with some fun berms and all kinds of good activities. Nothing too extraneous, or we're not getting too sendy. Both of us have injured ourselves on bicycles since kids.
There's a lot of consequence.
Yeah, she and I, like, our second date, we were like comparing how many bones we broke, like, oh, I broke this one playing baseball. I rode my BMX bike into a leaf pile and broke my collarbone, and I shattered my knee skiing at Killington, and so we kind of like, we know like if we go enduro pretty heavy, we can get too out there. And so we like the quality of being able to walk and, be all four limbs available. So, we work a bit. We have two businesses now, and it's interstate. So we're trying to get on bicycles as much as we can. Kingdom just opened up about a week and a half ago. So we're just seeing the trails get cleaned up, all the blowdowns knocked out. I don't know what else to say on that. We're kind of like ride when we can. Anna was from Southern New Hampshire. I was from Southern Connecticut. I could ride year round. We didn't really have snow. And, you could drive.
Time out.
Whoa. Yeah. Wait, you just.
Anna, you're from New Hampshire?
Yeah.
Well, cat's out of the bag.
Okay. So Eric went to Pinkerton. I went to Central High. Where did you go?
Oh, no kidding. I was a Concord kid.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
I don't know that's for us Southern New Hampshire kids. You're from upstate.
I'm upstate.
Concord is not Southern New Hampshire. But we like you more than Bruce if you're from
It's okay. I understand.
if you're from New Hampshire and he's from
I'm
Connecticut.
a 203. I already been
Yeah,
treated
we
bad.
don't really we've said some shameless things about Connecticut on this.
I know.
It's
It's
okay.
like, don't tell anybody I'm dating the blue plate, but you
Yeah.
know.
So Anna, you said you were you were coaching though before. What were you coaching?
Yeah. So I was coaching at my local Concord YMCA. I had a large set of private clients in addition. I was teaching classes and coaching endurance athletes, as well as competing and getting more into the dirt scene. So I was kind of like dirt curious to begin with, and found mountain biking to be this really, really wonderful community. And so, I was getting more into that. I was competing pretty heavily in triathlon at that time. So I am now in recovery. And I thoroughly enjoy that, the long distance stuff that was coming out of the mountain biking community. So, started really getting into those marathon endurance races, and really was Vermont in general lent itself extraordinarily well to that new endeavor. So I
Great.
found myself up here more and more.
Yeah. So along that, like as you entered that space, and Bruce, you were always obviously heading up to the trails, and you were the let's flip the tables, right? You were the ones heading up to Kingdom Trails and engaging with those businesses. Bruce, you kind of mentioned at the beginning, you were trying to support them. How
Yeah.
do you now, as Dirt Church, engage with the endurance community as one of those businesses?
Well, like Anna said earlier, our brand is an après, right? So we're like the après ski, but we're the après dirt, right? Dirt Church isn't just the beer; it's the brand, and that's why we thought it was scalable. It's why we keep looking for places to go. It's not just going to stop in Charlemont. So we're always trying to reach out to the folks that are at different parks. We've stopped in Claremont. We've looked around at Sugarloaf. We're always kind of talking to people and trying to regionalize. So we've become involved with New England Mountain Biking Association. We've become involved with Bike Borderlands. Obviously, we're very involved with Thunder. The owners of Thunder have now bought Burke Mountain. They're going to expand Burke Mountain's network.
Wow.
Shaper also is involved at Bentonville, Arkansas, and so we're sort of allowing ourselves to be interacting with a lot of different groups, including Race Day Cross Country, which was born from motocross and cycling of that nature. And so we're working with the Catamount Huts and Trails Association, which is like the mountain biking version of the AT in Vermont, which is getting, birthed as we speak. They're growing about 40 to 50 miles. They're trying to get 260 miles. So we're trying to, anything that has like rubber on dirt that's within New England for right now for this conversation, we want to be a part of it and be like, let's go ride, let's go do awesome stuff in the woods. And then let's have, like Anna said, tailgate beers and celebrate. Our beer is designed for the people that are coming off the hill or off out of the woods to have, a couple beers and just be like, this is my après scene. So we're always pushing our brand to be connected with those that recreate within New England. And so
I think though, honestly, is like when we're working with other brands, whether it be Vermont Huts and Trails or NEMBA or whatever it might be, is that we're really trying to be like your hype partner. That's really more of an accurate description. A lot of races that when they're new and they're first coming out, there needs to be a lot of support for that, for them to take on. First year is always the hardest, right? So by creating this kind of really strong atmosphere, breweries tend to anchor not just communities, but also events. It gives them, a lot of legitimacy, and there is more consumer confidence in a race series or an event or a brand or something like that. So that's in addition to many, many other, not just beer brands, but many other things. And I think that's more of the avenue that we're going towards when we work with other businesses, whether it be an established ski hill or a first time race group or a subset of a municipality or whatever it is, that those are the things that we're trying to do, is help support, be outside, right? And so that brings it full circle back to our three pillars, which is, celebration, recreation, preservation. We want to give back and preserve the access to open space. We want to, coordinate trail maintenance days. We want to use proceeds from, a beer night or whatever to give back for, bike maintenance, whatever it might be. So however we can be utilizing our positions or whatever it is, then we can help rising tides all ships kind of thing. That's always been our biggest priority.
Love, love, love that you guys are doing that. It's like, oh my God, I wish more companies would do this. I feel like I have to say thank you. Thank you for all that you're doing.
It's what we would do anyway. So let's
We describe it as a niche within a niche. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of beer out there, but our beer has a meaning for what our particular niche is to look for this recreational community. That's why we have those three pillars. That's a reminder of our mission is that, yeah, it's beer, but it's the camaraderie. It's the niche. But whatever it is you're doing, if you're out hunting rabbits or you're walking your dog, it's all part of what Dirt Church means.
Yeah. No, things taste better after a ride also, right? You could bottle your beer or can it and bring it home and drink it after a hard day at work. It will not taste nearly as good as it will after you come off the trails. And so that's I'm getting what you're putting down.
Hey, you piqued my interest on something you mentioned, which I hadn't heard about. Did you mention something about a trail that's being built in Vermont?
Yeah, the Catamount Trail system. Yeah.
What is this?
It's called Velomont.
Velomont. They have two different names, but they're merging the names to be. It's like a hut system, and it's also a trail system. And so this year they merged the names so that it's an adaptive and multi-use trail for pedal power from literally Charlemont, Massachusetts, all the way to Magog and Canada. And it's like a 280 something mile trail layout. They've only built like 50 miles of it. And there's huts along the way that you can rent that have kitchenettes and things like that. And
This would be the ultimate bike packing on
the bike packing mountain bike trip all the way through the length of Vermont from the Mass line to Canada, basically.
That's cool.
Are you guys working with them?
Yeah, we're starting up with them. We're actually going to go do an experimental ride, like an overnight in June, and shoot up some photographs and bring some beers and really like get an experience, see what it's all about. And there's a whole pile of us going to go and stay in a hut for the night and get to know the people that are running it and helping them fundraise because it's very grant driven to complete sections of the trail. So they're mostly in southern Vermont. They're like in the Randolph area and they're trying to get up and they're going to come through Kingdom. They're going to come through, St. Johnsbury also, I think the Killington area. And so they're just trying to get pieces built and get people aware of it. So they're having like these fundraising, promotional days where we're like, well, let's help you build that brand, get awareness, get money, generate. We make some beer that we give money back to the communities for, good biking behavior. We have a beer called Gratitude, which is about Ride with Gratitude campaign. And so that goes to the Bike Borderlands group, which is part of the Northern Forest Center out of Maine. And it's about goodwill, respecting the land, respecting the landowner, the nature, other riders. And so it's about the good message and helping raise awareness to these groups that are spending a lot of energy to make people,
Here's something really cool too.
Yeah. And so with this, they're like, no one, like you guys are not aware of it. So we made you aware of it. We reached out to them and said, how can we help you get more awareness? How can we help you generate interest and revenue to complete your mission?
This is cool.
Yeah. So I guess you admit we were going to talk a little bit about Race Day XC. We've had him on the podcast and we knew about your relationship and that's exciting. Are there other and you've just mentioned a lot of other grassroots organizations that you're aware. So I think it's just important for people to recognize what you're doing to support the broader endurance community in New England from a sport perspective. But now let's talk a little bit about your personal favorites. What are your favorite events, either as a fan or a participant from an endurance perspective that you have in New England?
That's so hard.
Because your favorite child, right? Like, I mean, in a sense.
I mean,
They're all my favorite.
I mean, I kind of have to say Circumberg's my favorite, but oh my God, that's such a miserable race.
But it's fun. It's memorable.
It's memorable. No, I honestly think one of my favorites, I'm going to date myself a little bit here, but was the Hampshire 100 back at Crotched Mountain back in the day. That's where I grew up, Bennington, New Hampshire. So that race always has a special place in my heart, and that's like real old school endurance. I wish I was, a part of that a little bit more when it was occurring, but God, Vermont 50, but it was, out of Crotched Mountain. And so it was like old school mountain bike racing.
The old like ride with GPS file on that and see if we can recreate it.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's like in the back of my brain is to be like, if that ride came back, I would just, yeah.
Circumberg has a special place in my. I've done Circumberg twice, and I met Anna the second time. But when we were dating, we actually did a ride that probably tested me the longest. It's called Something Wicked, and it's in Long Island. And we went with my bike club from Connecticut, and we took the ferry over Long Island Sound, and we did this pretty ridiculous, like a 7-hour bike ride.
Yeah, it's a 6-hour last man standing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 70 miles, I think we did when we were done. It was just sitting on the saddle and pedaling for 6 hours, 7 hours straight. And that tested the metal because it was 7 laps. I'd never done anything quite that length, that much. And I think I came in second or third in
Yeah.
my category, which I was thrilled about. Anna won, of course. And, it was a pretty fun group of people. They were really like spirited. That was the last year of that race. That was in 2019. They
Yeah.
ended it.
Unfortunately, Bruce, we're gonna have to edit it out only because it didn't happen in New England. But it's a
Yeah.
great story. But
Okay,
probably will
sorry.
never make the.
You
probably will
didn't say
never
that. I
make
didn't sign the
podcast.
memo. So
All right, I want to ask my favorite question of this podcast. If you could dream up an endurance event starting and ending at Dirt Church, what would it look like?
radar base,
Yeah, race to the base.
race to the base.
What's this?
There's a radar base that the government built in the 50s. Dirt Church, Vermont is in the town of East Haven. It's a town of 294 people. It's in the last county in Vermont. It's called Essex County. And in the 50s, the government took over this mountain.
This ride is 12 miles uphill the whole way.
3,500 feet to the top of the East Mountain where they built a radar base. And we've ridden it ourselves from the church to the radar base and back. And it's like 30 something miles round trip, isn't it? Because it's up Radar Road and it's all gravel and jank. And then it's pavement the rest of the way up. And it's just special because it could all take place here in the town of East Haven, which is rare. And there's some muddy sections and there's all kinds of you can see all kinds of wildlife.
Everybody on that hill climb.
It's pure wilderness. I mean, you'll see moose out there and grouse and all kinds of wild animals. And the radar base has got this spooky vibe about it. And if you Google it, you'll see some cool YouTube videos of it. It's got this real X-Files vibe about it. And it happened here for about 6 years that the government ran this particular like 17-acre hillside radar base to look at, Cold War era Russian invasions out of Canada. It's pretty nutty. But
I'm there if you do it.
yeah, we talked about it. We have some friends that are actually going to rehabilitate and fix the property up and make it available. It's going to be a long road for them to get that going, but that would be special to us because the Moose Haven Trail systems here in East Haven and all that property is all part of what we came out here to do. That would be cool.
It'd either be that race to the base, or if you could do like a Huffy ride down Black Bear.
So for those that don't know, Black Bears is like rated one of the top 3 trails, I think, in the country, mountain biking. And it's pretty close to you guys, right? It's in the East Haven section.
Yeah. Less than a mile from the brewery.
Yep. One of my favorite trails of all time.
So we're getting towards the end here. So I want to talk a little bit about the brewery here, just from, so we can get some people to come and visit if they haven't been. What's something about the brewery that when people show up, they might not expect when they visit?
It's a good question.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. Go for it. Take it, Bruce.
Wow. I think that we're not in the church. The church is more symbolic. Ironically, we bought a church to be hilarious about what Dirt Church isn't really. So it's like, we're being funny. We call it our expensive lawn ornament. So it's like, well, what do you do with the church? And we're like, we don't really do anything with the church. It's not really about the church, but we own a church, and and it's cool. We did turn it into an Airbnb, and people love it. They think it's fun. It's very whimsical inside, and it has a working bell, and it's a pretty nice little piece of Americana and New England heritage. It's 150 years old, and we do care about it. It's part of our preservation component. The brewery is really comfortable. We're very dog friendly. There's lots of like fun games and things to do. We have about 12 to 14 beers on tap all the time. It's a very casual place. A place that we want to go and kick our flip-flops off and sit by the fire and drink some beers and just kind of let loose and relax. We're very accessible. We're very close to Moose Haven. We call ourselves Base Camp 2. We're always like, we're not quite in the village of Burke where all the action is, but we're closer to Moose Haven. We have all the amenities that the community can offer. We're very much dovetail with what the identity of the Kingdom Trails draw is, what the mountain bike community loves. It's a very comfortable place. We want people to feel as totally relaxed and as peaceful as they can when they arrive to our place, and buy beer, of course.
Yeah.
Where can folks buy beer aside from Dirt Church headquarters?
Well, most of the kingdom, our beer is distributed. We self-distribute here in Vermont, and so everything we find is from St. Johnsbury. It's up in Newport, Derby area. We're very much in Lindenville and Burke at the mountain. That's most of our. We get out to like Cabot and some other areas out along the Route 2 corridor. We try to stay focused in the kingdom. It's really hard and competitive out in Burlington area, and that's a 2-hour car ride for us. So we tend to just focus on our region. The kingdom is 3 counties, and that's plenty of geography for us to cover. In Massachusetts, because of the Charlemont tap room by Thunder, we have all of our beer available at that tap room. We're much more represented for distribution in Massachusetts, so we're pretty much found all over Western Mass, and we're starting to push east towards like Worcester. Our beer has been spotted in Hyannis, Cape Cod in February at an Irish bar called Finn's. So we know we're able to canvas a bit of Massachusetts. Our beer is moving around with the help of our partners at Berkshire Brewing Company. And, we're going to work towards Boston and the North Shore and stuff like that. And we're excited about the 7 million, beer drinkers in Massachusetts, in addition to the 600,000 in Vermont. So we're trying to,
Awesome.
the more beer you make, the better the brand can survive. And that's really what we're trying to do, is get our name out around the region. Race day cross country with John has been really helpful because he's in 4 different states doing races. So we can work with him to make more people aware of us. So come to visit our place at whichever one that is, to buy our beer, tell a friend, put a sticker on their fridge, and really just be a part of the fun community that Dirt Church is. So that's kind of where our focus is. And we're going to reach out to more states. We are in talks in Connecticut and Southern New Hampshire. So we're trying to get the name out there and get New England aware that, we're not just in the kingdom. We're going to be in your local fridge.
So tell us why you agree that New England is the greatest endurance region in the country, if not the world.
Man, I've raced and competed and played all over the world, and there's something about home here that keeps bringing me back. And it's the terrain and it's the people. You never get the same terrain twice, right? You could ride the same trail every day, and every day is a different condition, different mindset, different body feel, right? So every day is so different, and that to me gives me variety that will never be boring. And there's something so special about watching the sun come up at, on your bike, or a sunset on the river, or whatever it is. New England has such distinct terrain and distinct season that I always come back to it. The people here we've made lifelong friends, and they'll always be here with us, and that's something that you just cannot find anywhere else. There's just a special flavor here that I will never tire of.
I totally agree.
Well said. Well said. Well, I got to thank you both for joining us on this podcast. And I've really enjoyed learning about Dirt Church. I can't wait. I'm definitely heading up to the Kingdom Trails this year, get some riding in, and I'll be stopping by for sure. Hopefully bring the dogs. But it's just really cool to hear how you integrated into the how you left Connecticut, which was a super wise choice, and moved to a proper New England state like Vermont. And so we're really happy to see that
Took some grit.
migration. So, and we got to thank our sponsors. And you know what goes great with beer is cookies. And one of our great sponsors is Lark Fine Foods, which is 100% woman-owned specialty food company baking delicious small batch cookies inspired by grown-ups, consumers with sophisticated tastes. So we're definitely going to pair some cookies with some beer. And then I love reading books while drinking beer. And one of my favorite books to just keep reading is The Everyday Athlete, a book about balancing work, family, and fitness, written by none other than Arch Potzis, our host here. Those are the things. But if you want to learn more about Dirt Church, we'll be sure to tag them on our Instagram at New England Endurance, and you can visit them at dirtchurchvt.com. And for those not watching on YouTube, there's some sweet swag available as well, I imagine, on that website. So check it out for sure.
Thank you
Thanks,
both
guys.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Appreciate your time.
Really a pleasure. Thank you.
Yep.
Yes, and to all our listeners, until next time, get out there, keep pushing your limits, drop some hammers, and enjoy the beautiful terrain of New England.
Lovely.